Hello,
Hello, everyone.
welcome to
It's
Your Time You're Wasting with me, David Didow,
hang
and
on.
this handsome gent, Martin Robinson. There's my name.
Oh,
Martin's. What have you done? What have you? Martin was
uh,
assuring me earlier that he's been practicing and he's got really slick. But it's nice to have room for improvement, isn't it?
it
Yeah,
got there
really
in the
good,
end.
Martin.
It got there
Yeah,
in
it
the end.
did. It got there in the end.
How have I been?
So,
I've been fine. How are you?
yeah, I've been tickety-boo. I've been very well. I'm still in training for my half
Your
marathon.
marathon, and you've been
Yeah,
injecting
only half.
yourself.
Times are hard. A bit bored over the summer. Yeah, so there we are. No, I came out as if anyone is very vaguely interested or doesn't know, I came out as having been taking the weight loss drug Mohenjo-Daro, I think it's called. I don't know, something
Gosh,
like that.
that sounds
Yeah,
like
I know.
as an actor from the Far East.
I think it's a prehistoric excavation. I can't remember. Anyway, it's a bit like that. Manjaro. Anyway, I don't know why we can't call it Ozempic, but I think that's
Oh, I
trademarked or
see.
something like
Is
that.
is it
I think
bad for
so.
advertising? We're
I
allowed
don't
to
know. I don't
advertise. We
think.
can advertise.
Yeah, well, we could. If somebody wants us to advertise something for them,
Sponsored by
get
Ozempic. We could both
yeah,
lose weight. We could disappear in front of people's eyes.
we'd be happy to do that for money, wouldn't we, Martin?
Yes, pay us, and we
Uh,
won't do this anymore.
Yeah. So terribly sorry for the infrequent transmission. It is the summer holidays, and we've been a bit busy. You had a bit of a nightmare with a travel agent. Do you want to put
Oh,
the
I don't.
boot in? Or...
I don't want to go
No,
through that. I'm under
no,
therapy.
fair enough. Yeah, okay, on to therapy. But don't use Expedia, boys and girls, to
Expedia
book your
nightmare.
holidays.
Yeah, their
Yeah,
extraordinary customer servicing is awful. And when you
yeah.
do finally get through, they say we'll call you back in 4 hours. And it's the day before you're due to go on holiday, and your holiday's cancelled at the last minute due to their incompetence. It's quite frightening. But
So we put a link up to Expedia.
yeah, no, but the Expedia complaints line.
Yeah. So probably not going to be sponsored by Expedia, but other than that, we're open to offers.
Yeah. And
So yeah,
also
sorry
like and
for
subscribe, everyone. So if you
you. Yes, like,
please do that.
subscribe, comment, tell us
Comment
stuff,
and
tell
put
us what you
stars
think.
on whatever the other things that people use. What's it?
Your ceiling, uh,
Spotify, Amazon Music,
Podbean,
Podbean,
Apple.
Apple. Apple.
Yeah,
There we go.
all of those things. We take money from Apple, wouldn't we?
We'd certainly take money from Apple.
Yeah. Anyway, so what we're
What
talking about. We're
what
going to
are we
say, what are
talking
we
about?
talking about?
What are we
We're
talking
talking
about?
about personality, Martin, and we're talking about how maybe people's personalities are changing in light of the intrusive nature of the online world and the fact that we're maybe all a bit more disconnected from IRL, as the young people sometimes call it.
Where did you get that
And
from? You've been connected with a young person recently, by the sound of it. You must.
yeah, do you know? But my daughters are at home for the summer, so I'm
That's
just
it.
getting lots of all of that sort of things
Down with
going
the
on.
kids.
Uh, Always, always. So we've been looking at we looked at an interesting thread by a fellow called John Byrne Murdoch, who writes for the FT, and he was sharing some stats from a survey done in the States. So before we get too alarmed, it's worth saying that this is perhaps not representative of how people feel and are self-reporting in the UK or anywhere else other than America. But Martin, who's our visual effects
Guru.
maestro,
Maestro.
yeah,
Okay.
Martin, show us the first, show us the slide with the first four graphs on, because I think this is quite interesting. So you can see there lots of lines going up and lines going down.
If you're listening to us, by the way, you can't see there,
Right,
but
you
I'll
can't.
put a link to it in the notes.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah. So, in case you don't know, um, the personality is measured according to what psychologists often refer to the big five, which are these these personality traits. So on the screen, we've got 4 of those big 5 traits. We've got conscientiousness, neuroticism, agreeableness, and extroversion. The missing one is openness to experience, which, by the way, I always score pretty well on openness to experience. And that includes, you might be interested to know, Martin, that includes things like imagination, curiosity, appreciation for the arts. I think you might do well on it. Willingness to try new things.
Oh, I should try.
So that's, yeah. So
I should try and do a survey.
interestingly,
That'll be it. Yeah.
yeah, maybe we should. But we haven't got any data on that. But let's talk through, because one of the one conscientiousness shows we've got these different coloured lines, one for respondents aged 60 or above, and then we've got, which is dark blue for those of you that are watching, and then there's a pale blue line for respondents aged between 40 and 59, and then a red line for 16-year-olds up to 39. And that red line is seeing a really, really dramatic decline between 2016 and 2024, when this or 2020. I think it goes to 2025, doesn't it? And essentially, conscientiousness seems to be falling through the floor. So, do you know what's involved in conscientiousness, Martin?
Well, planning.
Yeah, planning, organisation,
setting goals for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Self-discipline.
Being self-disciplined. If someone asks you to do something and you say yes, you go ahead and do it rather than run away. And
exactly, being dependable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and if low conscientiousness is associated with positive things, it's associated with spontaneity, which is nice. We like some of that, but also obviously being disorganized and careless, which are not so great generally. So what do we make of that? Conscientiousness falling through the floor for 16-year-olds to up to 39-year-olds. Why do we think that's happening?
Yeah, I mean, this is the connection that Bern Murdoch is making with it. And also, I think I first came across this when Jonathan Haidt retweeted or re-X'd the thing, which is to
reposted, I think.
Oh yeah, okay.
No. Yeah,
he's making the connection with not just the internet, but the dawn of the age of the smartphone. And sort of saying that it's making a big difference, particularly to younger people. If we look at conscientiousness, those of my age group, we're a tad bit
pretty
more
stable.
Conscientious, in fact.
Well, in fact, if you put it back up again for a moment, you can see a slight uptick between last year and this year for the oldsters. So that's nice, but that's fairly stable. So the 60+ generation are as conscientious, probably more or less, as they ever were.
Boomers.
Everyone else,
boomers.
Yeah, boomers. My age group, a bit less conscientious. I think I'm probably responsible for quite a bit of that lack of conscientiousness. But then, the youngsters really, really falling through the floor. It'd be interesting, perhaps, to separate that out by even further by age group. Maybe 16 to 25 and 26 to 39, and see if there's what the difference is there. So at the same time, we've got neuroticism going up. So being neurotic is about being anxious, moody, irritable, and having low neuroticism means you're more likely to be emotionally stable and resilient, have a bit of grit. And again, your lot, Martin, fairly calm, fairly placid bunch. Everyone else going up a bit, but the youngsters far more neurotic over the last 10 years or so than looks healthy. Looks like quite a dramatic increase, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then we've got agreeableness and extroversion coming down again. I find agreeableness probably the most interesting of these 5 personality traits, because being agreeable obviously seems like a roundly good thing, and it's associated with being compassionate and trusting and cooperative. But interestingly, having low agreeableness is really important for things like scientific discovery. So having high disagreeableness means you're much more likely to say, nope, that's not right, and to go against the consensus and to stick with what you believe in and not just go with the flow. So it's maybe not, it's not, I don't think it's as clear cut as some of the other ones. And then the
Well, you're
final one
saying
is
in let's
extroversion.
just say
Yeah, sorry,
like
go on.
in if you live in North Korea, you're quite
Yeah.
agreeable.
Well, I should imagine there's quite a bit of social pressure. So, and you're right that, of course, to say that different cultures, agreeableness is more valued and maybe required than in other cultures. I think the rugged individualism of America, in particular, maybe values disagreeableness slightly more than Japan or other East Asian nations. Interesting to
The
ponder.
other thing is that he's making a connection not just with the internet but also with social media. And
Yes.
you could say that disagreeableness is something that social media actually farms.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
thing that makes it work. Without disagreeableness, is hardly any point to it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think you and I started, well, certainly our acquaintance back in the early days of edu Twitter in sort of 2011, 2012. I think we first came across each other. Does that sound about right to you?
Maybe, but it was a lot
You
different
were,
in those
weren't
days.
you? Yeah, no, exactly. It was much more agreeable, and there weren't really disputes and people getting angry with each other in
There were
quite the same
disputes,
way.
but people would,
They weren't tribal in the
we
same way,
we
were
could
they?
look back with rose tinted spectacles a bit, perhaps, but I think the algorithms today do feed not just on giving
Yeah,
more views to
yeah,
people who are making strong statements,
contrary. Yeah, yeah,
but also putting it into the lines of people who might disagree, and so therefore stirring up the hornet's nest,
yeah,
because the hornet's nest is
absolutely.
what gets attention.
I've got a memory sort of coming to the surface here. I don't know if you'll tell me if this is true. Didn't you used to go by Surreal Anarchy?
My name, yes, my name on Twitter, yes.
Surreal. It's a shame you changed that.
Well, there you go.
And I remember that you had a black and white picture of a man on a bike.
Yes, yes, that was Alfred Jarry.
Tell us about Mr. Jarry.
Alfred Jarry, he's a playwright, I suppose. He wrote a play when
Oh.
he was at school about his maths teacher and various other teachers he didn't like. And the first line of the play is "Maître."
He was a Frenchman, was he?
Yes, and when
Right.
with a "Maître," there's a lot of R's in it, and
Oh, that sounds
an
Scottish.
extra R,
Nada.
in fact. And
Yeah.
when it was first performed, there was a riot, of course, because of
Wow.
that. So, is that agreeable? Are you
No,
trying to?
he would probably score relatively low on agreeableness,
Yeah.
uh, as all great artists should, I think,
Ah,
Martin.
there we go. So you think it's
There
a
we
good
go.
thing?
Well, I think it has positives that as society we might find generally beneficial in our interactions with individuals. Obviously, agreeableness goes a long way.
But not when you're talking to Expedia about them cancelling the holiday. I found
No, did
agreeableness
you have
wasn't.
to be quite no?
I went for the
Did
disagreeable approach. Yeah, in
did
the
it
end,
work?
it took 14 and a half bloody hours to sort it out.
Oh, Martin, Martin. And then, okay, and so there we are. And the final, yeah, we haven't really talked about extroversion. And there's extroversion going down for everybody, even you lot, you oldsters,
Yeah. Well,
becoming less extrovert.
yeah.
I mean, you're just obviously
Sorry.
bedridden, aren't you?
Yes. Sorry. Thank you.
Stuck in your homes, wheels on meals, turning up on.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, the fact that people can communicate online with each other rather than go out the house.
Yeah.
And also, mustn't forget the effect of lockdowns on this as well. I think that people
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
become more home centered and home centric,
By
including
necessity.
working from home.
Yeah.
There's still evidence that
Yeah.
that is, a hell of a lot more than it was before the
Yeah.
pandemic. Obviously, that's technology has allowed that to happen.
Yes.
And also the stirring of fear of going out at certain times of day or night. I think people, again, because of the culture they access online, there's
Yeah.
some city centres and some countries sound terrible. I'm not going to go there. I mean, people are terrified
Yeah.
of going to London, for goodness sake, because
I've
London.
seen there seems to be a whole sort of subgenre of social media posts about London saying it's like Bangladesh, it's like Harare,
Mm.
and
And it's
it
lovely.
seems
London is lovely, so do come, do visit.
London is lovely. London, obviously, all human life is there, isn't it?
And
Oh
it's
yes,
it's featuring on my
Martin. For
t-shirt.
those of you, that can't see, Martin's gesturing at his chest, and if you're in the 60-plus age bracket, you might well remember the Thames Television logo, which Martin is proudly sporting,
Yes,
which
thank
is a
you.
lovely view of the London. It's a bit like the EastEnders, but rather than top down, side on.
Oh,
A bit.
yes. Anyway,
I'm trying to draw it,
yeah,
bring it to life for
yeah.
those.
It's not really. Yes,
Yeah.
it's a
Anyway,
picture of London
moving.
rather than
So
a picture of another bit of London. Yeah,
one of the points that you were making earlier before we went online, Martin, was that John Murdoch was talking about the fact that conscientiousness, in particular, he was arguing was a better predictor for success than IQ.
yeah.
Is that right?
Well, so he was saying. I mean, I can only
Yeah.
take his word for it. That conscientiousness. I mean, it makes sense to some extent. It's also
It does.
that we should give caveat all this that this is self-reported,
Yeah,
whereas
it
IQ
is.
isn't
No.
self-reported.
Well, if it were, it would be a lot higher. I predict. Um, no, and that's a really important point because personality, and I think we probably need to get into this a little bit, especially self-reported personality, which a lot of personality tests are
Yeah, can we
by
also
dint of
caveat that as well? Because people aren't just saying, "Oh, I am conscientious." They are going
no,
through a load of questionnaires
yes,
that
yeah,
then,
they
I mean,
absolutely are.
yeah,
That are then extrapolated
yeah,
to give these scores. So they might be asked questions like, "Have you felt depressed recently?"
mm,
or "Have you been out? Do you want to punch somebody in the face?" Those sorts of things.
yeah,
And have you been on the phone with Expedia
yeah,
recently? All of those sorts of things, which inform the results. And so, as Martin suggests there, if your IQ, if you ever do an IQ test, I never have. Have you ever done one?
no, no,
No. So I've no idea. I imagine mine's terribly low. But if I
yeah.
if I did do one, it would
I'm not
be
arguing.
a snapshot. No, I noticed that. A snapshot of my performance on the day. And we know that people's IQ scores correlate only to about between zero point 0.8 and zero point 0.9 with each other. The same person taking the test is likely to get a different result the next day, a couple
Mm,
of days later, a year later. It's never the same. So IQ would have a range, and so if you took several tests and averaged out the results, you'd get a better appreciation of where your intelligence quotient might fall. And whatever you think about IQ, lots of people get upset by it. It's a pretty good predictor of lots and lots of other things, and it's fairly stable in terms of anything that can be measured psychometrically. It's about as stable and about as reliable as measure as we've got. So interesting. One of the things that I think is really interesting is that IQ is actually a really good predictor of conscientiousness. So the higher
right,
your
but he's
IQ, the more
saying
likely you are to score higher on a test of conscientiousness.
right, but he's saying that conscientiousness is a more of a predictor than
Yeah,
IQ. So how
yeah.
does that work out?
Well, how does it, I mean, I'd need to look at the figures and see exactly what they were claiming. But obviously, if you're turning up to work every day and fulfilling expectations, that's a pretty good indication that you're going to be more successful. And just being clever and not bothering to show up, obviously not a great predictor of success in the workplace or anywhere else, probably. So,
Yeah.
so
There
it
is,
does. There's
isn't
a
there
certain
at the
amount of
top end?
plausibility there.
Isn't there at the top end of IQ some sort of counterintuitive evidence that people don't work so well in the
Not
work
really. No,
in the
it's a bit of a
workplace?
myth.
I know, but I thought I was reading
Yeah,
the other day, and
I
this
know.
is off the
I
top
know.
of my head here.
Well,
Reading the
if
other day
anyone if
something that
anyone wants a really accessible book about intelligence, and particularly as it relates to education, I've written one.
but just
Um,
now,
just as we speak, no, a few years ago, called "Making Kids Cleverer," um, and I go into all of a lot of the mythology surrounding IQ and a lot of the problems with it, and a lot of the reasons why people are upset with it, what's wrong with it, what its limitations are,
I thought there
and
was
it has
something
many.
right. I thought there was a connection with a personality trait where I think it's agreeableness that actually
Yes,
there's something about
yeah,
disagreeableness which goes with hierarchy.
yeah.
So that's what
Yeah,
I've.
you're absolutely right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, that is true. That is true. Thank you, Martin. We got there. It is true. Yes, and I think that may again, I'm trying to sort of post hoc rationalize that to say if you're a lot cleverer than everyone around you, and everyone else is saying, I think this is true, you might be really tempted to go, it's not.
Yeah, I don't suffer fools gladly. That sort of
Maybe, maybe.
looking
Obviously,
down on your peers,
yeah, that's
which
that's
isn't
fair.
great when you're just a junior in the office.
No, probably not. Probably not. You can imagine Dominic Cummings being a bit like that, can't
I
you?
couldn't possibly comment.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, certainly looking down on all the Tory MPs in that
Let's move
way,
hurriedly on.
hurriedly. Um, so, so yeah. So we're making the link, or at least Jonathan Haidt was making the link, John Byrne Murdoch making the link between these changes in these personality scores and the advent and the rise of both the smartphone and social media.
Yeah,
Bit depressing.
yeah, and it's not surprising. I think before we sort of go into sort of saying it's a problem for school kids, I think it's a problem
Mm.
for all of us. I mean, if you wake up in
Yeah.
the morning and the first thing you grasp is your mobile phone
Yeah.
and you start to scroll through it, and then you realize you've been lying in bed for an hour, haven't achieved getting up yet, and things
Yeah.
like that. And also little things when you go to the loo, what did you used to do when you're,
Oh, you'd read a Lou book, wouldn't you?
you would read a book or think or
Yeah, all the best people have a bookshelf by the Lou.
but now you just take your phone in or whatever. I'm just talking for myself. But so much of downtime as well, where
Yeah,
you would daydream,
yeah,
you're reaching for your phone, or you're feeling that itch to go, to actually reach
yeah,
out, even if it's not where you put it. Oh my God,
yeah,
So all these things
mm,
are showing that there's the environment that has been created around yourself
yeah,
gives huge clues as to the change. And obviously, those of us in our dotage, in our 60s and above, look back to childhoods where we had so much free time to do things in. And it seems
mm,
nowadays that free time is being eaten up by people just going to their phones and not having that
yeah,
breadth of experience, except you could say breadth of viewing. There's more breadth in viewing, People are viewing a
mm.
lot more material than I did when I was a kid. But whether that
No, and
material is useful or
mhm,
what, I don't know.
yeah.
And reading, less reading. Well, might be
Well,
more reading, but not
yeah,
reading.
exactly. I think actually the data suggests that people in some way, a lot of people read more, but
Yeah,
just very, very differently.
yeah.
And
Short,
there's some really,
short essays,
yeah,
perhaps tweets.
tweets, sort of ephemeral stuff like
Mm,
Snapchat just
yeah,
disappears on you.
yeah,
And there's some really interesting studies that have been done on the difference between what's sometimes called print literacy and screen literacy.
yeah.
So if you put someone in an fMRI scanner and get them to read on a screen, the bits
God.
the bits of their I know
Have you
the
ever
bits
been
of
in
their
one of these
I
scans?
no, I haven't, but
Okay,
apparently
I just
the bits of their yeah, I know it sounds awful, but the bits of their brain which appear to that light up are the bits that are associated with rapid consumption, skimming,
Mm,
scanning, sort of like just basically churning through. Whereas when people are reading on paper, the bits that are activated are those bits that we associate with critical thinking, analysis, reflection. And there's an argument that you could make that if we not that reading on screens is bad per se, but if it's all we're doing, potentially we're losing some of our ability to be analytical and reflective and critical, which are all things which we all say we really, really value and
Yeah.
think are important.
And if you go back to disagreeableness, I mean, people are
Mm,
disagreeing and being critical, but in a sense of not in a reflective sense, but
yeah,
in a knee jerk sense.
that's right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Disagreeableness with low conscientiousness is
mm,
probably poor combo. I
yeah,
don't know.
but it's one that seems to be on the increase.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, absolutely. And the idea that we're being fed by the algorithms that exist, things which will confirm our biases more and more and more, and we're much less likely to see things which which we find surprising or
Yeah.
unusual or outside of our area of interest
But
is
even the
probably
even
not
the
good.
like button is something that is a sort of passive
Yeah,
aggressive thing that the person who invented it, who did it for Facebook,
right.
um, he
I don't know
he
this story.
he's absolutely. Yeah, I wish I'd done my research on this. I didn't think we are going to get to this, but I could tell you his name, but I can't.
Yeah.
He left the company, but he's
Put
got his
it,
biggest
put it in the
regret.
note.
His biggest regret is inventing the like button, because he thinks it's a bad thing, and he banned his daughters, I think it is, from social media
Yeah.
for the first few years of their lives. But yeah, he's hugely regretful of inventing that thing. I
Mm.
suppose someone else would have done it had he not. But
It's interesting, isn't it, that all of these Silicon Valley types appear to not let their children have access
I
to
don't know if
mobile
all of them
phones and
do. But
social media.
there's again, we're
Well,
talking about
yeah,
um, things that
yeah.
people sort of might think.
I
I
don't,
don't know
I
if it's
don't
true.
happen to know any tech CEOs, so I can't really comment.
Ring them up.
They don't. Yeah, they've probably got quite low
They're probably watching
agreeableness.
this, actually, come to think of it, because they've got to
Probably.
check content, haven't they?
Yeah, they probably all have to do that. No, yeah. So this is happening, and this is the world. I mean, the other thing to say, actually, before we move on, sort of from talking about personality, I've noted down to say is that is personality even a thing, Martin? Does it exist?
Yes. There you go.
Right. Okay. Well, that's that sorted. I was worried for a moment that it might not. No. And so the reason I ask, obviously, we perceive all the people that we know as having personalities, but we're all different with different people. As an extreme example, the way we interact with for instance, our grandparents is very different to the way we interact with a social group down the pub. And
That's a different question to does personality exist? That's
it
does
is. It is.
personality stay stable, or is it
Right.
always the same? Then
Yes,
your
yeah,
personality traits are different in different contexts. Yeah,
exactly so. Yeah. So there's a big argument to say that personality is not very stable, that we change our personality routinely, possibly to some extent consciously, but obviously I would suggest to some extent unconsciously. And one of the points that Bern Murdoch makes, which is quite important, is about the plasticity of personality, that just because this is what people are self-reporting doesn't necessarily mean it's a fait accompli, that we're all just have to put up with being more neurotic and less conscientious and so on.
yeah,
Does that chime at all for you?
yeah. So I think this is from parenting, teaching, or anything else.
Mm,
You know that by guiding and helping, you can help people change in some ways. I mean, this is something I think Dan Whittingham was on about in his tome, his famous tome about kids and liking school and all that, or not liking school.
yeah.
Is that one of the jobs of teaching is to change kids.
Mm.
That's what you're in the change game, really, and
Yeah,
to change them
absolutely.
for the better. And we all have tales, I'm sure, that we could relate about children who have changed for the better under not just our guidance, but the guidance of schools, teachers, parents, and also, unfortunately, other stories that perhaps go the other way. But
Mm.
yeah, I think personality is one of those things that is genetic, yes, but there's also a lot that is environmental and cultural.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So that we shouldn't despair. We shouldn't abandon this younger generation to their fate. We what can we do? What are the things that if school, if education, if parents can make a positive difference, what does that look like?
Well, I mean, getting your kid ready to get to school on time, well fed, and
Mm.
washed, dressed,
Yeah.
those things. I mean, there's obviously those conscientious traits. The
Mm.
the other thing is, I think, also about teaching behaviour, good behaviour,
Hmm.
agreeableness. You could say.
Hmm.
I'm interested in the other side of agreeableness and whether you make everyone too placid. So that's an interesting balance
Yeah.
to think about
Well,
that.
there's an argument that suggests that societally we put more pressure on girls to be agreeable than
Mm.
boys,
Yeah, yeah,
which kind of tracks, doesn't it?
yeah. Certainly in the past, I think that might be changing a bit.
Maybe
Not
not
for
as
the not
much as
not
we'd like.
Yeah, both ways though. Boys as well. You have to
Mm.
be more responsible. You have to be. You're a toxic male. So
Well, you
so
should be a
that's another
conscientious.
discussion.
Yeah,
That's another
yeah,
discussion. Let's
noted.
not go into that this today. But those sorts of things. You could be saying that you have to be more agreeable because of your sex, your gender, etc. I don't know. Let's
But what about the? Go on. Sorry, I've
No, go on.
interrupted you. What were you going to say? What about the? There's a body of evidence which suggests that the effects of parenting wear off in adulthood, and the reason that we're like our parents isn't because of their parenting, but because we share
Their genes.
their DNA. Yeah.
Yeah,
What do we think of that? The if as an adult, like as your parent, you sort of make your kids eat their broccoli and you make them wash and you make them go to school and all of those things, and that they carry on being conscientious about those things as adults, and we feel very smug about it and think, oh, I did a very good job. Is it just that they're like us and that they also value those things? And that there's the old Larkin famous that'll be the verse, they fuck you up, your mum and dad, they don't mean to but they do. Is that maybe, and obviously a lot of parents sort of really despair when children seem to go off the rails, like what did I do wrong? And that maybe you didn't do anything wrong, maybe they're just they don't share some of the traits that you
yeah. I
have.
mean, you can see this if you've got um, especially got large family, you can see the difference in your
Mm,
kids and say, well, I brought them up
yeah,
entirely the same. So
yeah,
even your genes don't necessarily make people turn out the
no,
same, not in an obvious
no,
sense.
absolutely.
But it's not
And
just
even
you. And
even with identical twins,
yeah, yeah,
even identical twins
yeah,
raised in the same family, they will have
yeah,
differences.
yeah.
And so,
But there's the other thing. I mean, we're talking about
yeah.
our free will debate. That actually, we're sort of coming
Mm.
down here as though there are sizable differences that can actually happen that to some extent you have your freedom to form the character as Gove said, become authors of your own lives and all this as well.
Or,
But
or do you?
schools take responsibility though, don't they? I mean, certainly
Yeah,
the private sector in this country has
yeah,
for years sort of traded on, oh, he's very much Harrovian or an
yeah. It's the right
Etonian.
source.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
it's a good egg.
yeah, because he went to the right
I
school.
can tell because he's wearing the right tie.
Yeah, all that. So
Yeah,
it's a big thing about character, and then all the
yeah,
rogues, the wrong uns that went to
yeah,
certain
yeah.
schools are conveniently left off the old boys network. Yes, he's
Absolutely.
he's gone to Her Majesty's pleasure for a few years. We don't talk about him, or he's Boris Johnson and we don't. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
A constant source of pride for everyone involved in his upbringing, no doubt. Yeah. So schools do so interesting. So what to what extent can schools shape personality? So obviously schools can shape behavior of young people during the course
Yeah.
of the school day. That's absolutely clear, and they can create, like parents. As parents, we can create loving, warm, responsible environments that make childhood a lot more pleasant.
Mm.
That's really important. And schools can create environments where it's safe to be somebody who wants to study. That you can get on in your classes and sort of do the right thing, or they can unwittingly, I don't think anyone does this deliberately, they can create environments where it's social suicide to be hardworking and conscientious and to enjoy
Mm.
learning,
And this
and schools
culture is not
definitely have a
just
responsibility.
it's not just top down. I mean, schools exist within an
Yeah,
environment that
absolutely they do.
is given to them as well. It's context dependent on a lot of these things. It's interesting though that you can institutionalize children and people. There are there is evidence that a number of people who are homeless, and I'm
Mm.
not going to give figures on this in percentages
No,
because I don't know them, but there are a number of people who are homeless who have come out of the
we're
armed forces.
ex-military.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And find it difficult to exist within a less disciplined environment, shall we say? And for there could be many reasons for this. It could be reasons that
mm.
even predate going into the
Yeah,
military, and it might be some reason they've gone into the military in order to have that security around them. But it's whether schools think about the longer term consequences of the environment they create. So, do we create an environment that helps children to grow,
yeah.
not just to exist well? So, exist well today in the day to
Mm.
day in the school, but what happens afterwards? Have we given them the tools to
Yeah.
adapt to changing circumstances as their lives unfold?
Yeah, so I mean, I would imagine that every school has some sort of motto or sort of mission statement which says that they do that.
Hmm.
And, it's something that we really want to believe of our schools and of ourselves, that that's something that we think of as important. But are we doing that? Really, almost impossible to say, isn't it? It's like a lot of the metrics on success in all sorts of professions are by their very nature quite short term. So we look at sort of, for instance, we can judge a hospital on sort of post-operative success rates and sort of go, well, that's good. But looking at long-term health, sort of 5, 10 years after operations, much more difficult to collect the data uh, and follow it up and to do anything robust with it. So we by I think it's part of human nature to be quite short term in our appreciation of the consequences of our actions. So
It's actually
I
something that you could do. And
yeah
if we had things like and this is controversial, a national ID card or something like that, we could certainly collate data quite easier than we do
yeah,
in lots of things now. But
and
it's
schools
certainly
do
possible.
track
Yeah,
longer term outcome.
yeah,
Some longer term outcomes. They look at the percentage of students who in NEETs and that sort of thing,
mm,
and not in education,
yeah,
employment, or training, and but not very far into the future.
no.
So, and I think that sort of putting the burden on schools to do that tracking would be a bit silly. But
But if we
yeah,
go
if there was
back
some,
to the, I mean, the conscientiousness thing, I mean, it's
yeah,
certainly an issue if we look at the graphs. There is something going on
yeah,
there. If we look
you've
at
got another graph. Yeah,
the
this is a
this
good one, isn't it?
these are things that schools could actually help with and work
Yeah.
on. So makes plans and follows through. We're seeing that 16 to 39-year-olds are falling apart at being able to do that.
Mm.
Perseverance until finished,
Yeah,
completely falling apart. Easily distracted.
nightmare and
Uh, you know,
carelessness. Yeah,
I mean,
it looks brutal, doesn't it?
yeah.
It looks really awful. So so can schools do it? If you put the graph back just for a second,
Yep.
Martin, so we can sort of refer to it. So, there, making plans and follows through. So I'm just sort of thinking out loud here. So I could set up a sequence of lessons where I say to my students, okay, I want you to make a plan, and there's going to be some kind of consequential result on you following that plan through, and I'm going to assess how well you persevere at following that and score you on your distractibility and the care with which you take this. Is that enough? Is that just
Isn't that
stupidly
what we call
superficial?
project-based learning, isn't it?
Well, it sounds a little bit like that, doesn't it? The potential. I can imagine a scenario where people are going, oh yeah, this fad for explicit instruction, it's just encouraging people to become more dependent on external resources and less independent.
External sources in the short term as well. So it's not building
Mm.
towards something. It's being quite reliant on people around you. I mean, I mean, let's also go back to the last national curriculum,
Right. Health,
the big,
personal
yeah,
learning,
all
and
that big
thinking
picture of the
skills.
curriculum time and all that. But one of
Didn't
the
you
things
have to? Didn't
I
you have to do a?
I did something with
You're not going to
it.
talk about that,
No, no,
Martin. This
I
has
would
been
love
deeply.
to. Let's do a whole podcast on that because I'd love to talk
Yeah,
about
let's do that. Okay, let's
creativity and
do that.
creating things
Yeah,
and all that.
creativity.
But one
Yeah,
of the
love
things
it.
that came out of that national curriculum and was all the rage and still probably is
Mm.
in mission statements, and that's the idea of creating
And Scotland.
independent learners. That children are
Yeah.
taught to become independent of their school, of their teacher, of all these other things.
Yes.
Like you are on your bicycle, you don't
Yeah.
put a
Of
child on a
course.
bicycle and hope you're always going to be holding onto their saddle and running after them. So there is this thing about educating to let go
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to
Agree.
be self-reliant. So do schools do that so much these days?
Well, Well, it's interesting because I think having lived through that, the mistake that tended to be made was that we said, right, okay, we've got to get children to be independent. What we're going to do is we're going to make them learn independently, and that will make them more independent. And I think for very many children, it just made them more dependent
Mm,
because we let go way, way too soon.
yeah.
And that independence is an end goal, which probably needs a lot of support and guidance and monitoring to get to the point where you can go, okay, now you're done, you're baked,
Yeah.
go off and be independent.
I mean, it was interesting in schools that I worked in at the time that key stage 3 was sort of
Mm.
lots of
Health
independent learning.
City.
And then key
Yeah.
stage 4,
Did
they
you?
grab hold of you and make sure you do the damn work
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get
you
your
bloody well
GCSE. Yeah. So it was
suck
almost the
down the
wrong way round.
spoonful of medicine. Yeah, no, no. Well, and it's it's absolutely. I remember talking to someone who went to quite a well-known school which sort of values project-based learning and said exactly that was the experience of kids in key stage 3, and then in year 10 it was like, Christ, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Right, let's spoon feed the buggers.
Yeah.
And that's possibly an issue with our system of assessment, that it's so high stakes for schools that we are not prepared to allow children to be independent enough to fail if we can possibly do anything about it, which I feel really kind of conflicted about that. I don't think we should. It doesn't sound great to allow people to fail, but the fact that the consequence for the teacher, for the school, for students failing is often greater than for the young person themselves, it might sometimes feel, is problematic for
Mm,
sure.
mm. Yeah. I mean, we're using figures here from America. We're guessing
We are,
that it's the same in this
of
country.
course.
But it,
Of course. Well,
um,
we've got some other data. We'll put some links up to that. There was a big study done in India which showed the effects of the big five personality dimensions on academic performance, which shows exactly the same sort of things, that conscientiousness is a strong predictor of grade point averages. Self-regulation is the mechanism which seems to be most at work there, and the lack, the growing lack of students being able to plan, persist, and resist distraction is a huge problem.
I'm also interested that
There's
a
a
lot of these things are things that perhaps if you put down a profile of
yeah,
what is a person with ADHD like, and
yeah,
a lot of these things seem to correlate, and
yeah. Okay.
ADHD seems to be on the increase. And people
Yes.
are sort of skeptical as to why this might be, or is it if there's even
Mm,
such a thing, ADHD. We did a
yeah.
podcast on this some time back.
Yeah.
But one of the things, if the world we've created around us is
Mm,
something which is more distracting, and I don't think this, by the way, is just the mobile phone. I think
no.
if you leave your phone at home and go for a walk, catch public transport, or do anything, you'll notice there's a lot more distraction going on in the world around you, whether it be loudspeakers asking you to be
Mm,
careful of the water on the ground, or
yeah. Sure. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
this thing. There's a lot of distraction, advertising, anything that's going on. There's a lot more happening around people.
Yeah.
Are those who were perhaps had ADHD in the past, but were in a more calm environment, in an environment which was more energetic, perhaps in some
Yeah.
ways as well, because you would do more physically rather than stay in and look at your
Yeah.
phone more. Actually, is the world we're created around us more likely to make those who have, ADHD
A,
more disjointed from
a
the society?
predisposition for those kinds of, yeah. I think that's compelling. That there was and I don't have the details of it to hand, but I remember reading a study in the last few years which showed that sufferers of ADHD, if they were sort of taken outside and given sort of physical stuff to do, the symptoms kind of disappear, and they only really present in environments where they're expected to sit still and concentrate on things which are quite abstract and sort of not interesting to them. And arguably, the skill, if it is such a thing, of sitting still, being compliant, listening, and being attentive to things which aren't immediately useful, is more valuable and more valued today than maybe it might have been in previous generations. And so it becomes increasingly rational and reasonable to say that people that can't do those things need medicating so that
Mm,
they can fit in with our societal expectations, where in the
mm.
past we'd have just allowed them the space and scope to do the things which
And it
weren't
wasn't,
problematic.
and it's not just allowing them; it's allowing
No.
everyone.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly. No, of course. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the fact that we've got this much more narrow road to success, perhaps.
mm,
That it's meant to include sixth form, university, postgraduate study, professional qualifications, and a career in the professions is only ever going to appeal and suit a certain type of personality, dare I say.
yeah. And do we think that's conscientious or just plain dull?
Well, it's going to be a mix of these things. The ability to conscientiously do something you don't enjoy is going to be in there. The agreeableness to be able
Mm,
to sort of survive office politics and all of
mm,
those kinds of things. The extroversion required to get on in those, all of these things will factor in and create this suite of preferences, that this is what we want people to be like in order to fit
mm,
in our office, in our company, in our culture. And anyone that doesn't, woe betide them.
mm,
Let's give
mm,
them drugs to make them more like us.
mm.
Oh, I've
So
gone on a little rant there,
you
haven't I?
have
Sorry
no,
about
you
that.
have indeed.
I can just see you turning that into a short.
And yeah, it's not just, of course, in the world that you're talking about in terms of personality, but also what the content is online. And we've had
Mm.
Dame Rachel D'Souza, the Children's Commissioner, sort of
Yeah.
raise some issues this morning about.
Oh, I haven't seen what she said this morning.
No, I think it follows on from the changes she's been talking about for some time. But they've done a survey, and children,
Yeah.
about something like, and again, I haven't got the figures in front of me,
Mm.
but something like 16% of children under the age of 6 have seen hardcore pornography, things like
Pornography.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you go to the cinema, and still you've got this ridiculous thing about parental guidance,
Oh,
etc.,
yeah, yeah,
etc.
yeah. The
You're,
BBFC. Yeah.
you're not allowed to come and see this particular film, but my God, you
Yeah.
can look at your phone instead. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
extraordinary what you can
It
actually get
is. It
access
is.
to, and so simply.
So obviously, the recent legislation has seen certain sites required to collect, to get people to give, to provide evidence that they are old enough to be on that website. And I think I'm right in saying something like pornography sites in the UK have seen traffic fall by around 47%. Is that right? That sound
That
about right
must
to you?
I couldn't possibly comment. I've got
I mean,
no
that's
idea. I'll talk
that's
to.
just you not being online,
That's
isn't
right.
it? Um,
Here we go. I knew this was going to
yeah. So have you? Um, I interestingly, Blue Sky,
Yeah.
the Twitter replacement site, got me to do age verification in order to access the direct messaging feature, and it said, do you want to provide, I think you put in sort of bank details and sort of show your age that way, or do you want us to take a scan of your face?
Mm.
And it took a scan of my face and went, yep, you're old enough.
Yeah. Well, of course. I
So
mean, you do look over 18. I'm sorry to tell you this.
I know, I know. I find it ridiculously easy to go into a shop and buy alcohol.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Yeah.
Yeah. And that has
But I
to be
found
looking
that,
over 25, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I found that kind of a fascinating process, that it's actually, it's very, very easy for websites to very quickly do that.
Yeah. And of course, they could have done this off their own bat years ago.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
they
wonder
don't
why
have the best
they
interests.
haven't.
They don't have your best
No.
interests at heart. The other thing is, and this is to some extent, it's not just pornography; it's the type of pornography that people are
Yeah.
seeing. So there's
And the way that's affecting the interactions that young people have.
and with each other, and
Yeah.
particularly in terms of things like strangulation and
Yeah. Really
other
horrible.
things, which I think I mean, extraordinary idea that this is the idea of how you should relate to
Sexual pleasure
people of
happens.
the
Yeah.
opposite
Yeah. Of
sex, and you can see how that would
course.
bring harmful relations in early explorations with
Yeah.
each other. Yeah, I think it's not just that; it's also suicidal content, and this is where the
Yeah.
algorithms
Yeah.
come in.
Self-harm. Yeah.
You look at something on self-harm, and then you're going to get absolutely inundated with lots more material around self-harm that's going to be fed to you. So you can see someone
Yeah.
who is, that's still growing as a human being,
Hmm.
all of a sudden faced with
And
this
being
extraordinary,
shown tips on how to hide it and where to
yeah,
do it safely, and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
and not necessarily. I mean, even these, if you watch something on terrestrial television, they'll say phone the Samaritans
Yeah.
or something like that
Or
afterwards.
even streaming services will flash up a warning like XYZ
Mm.
content in this episode or whatever, and
Content
you can,
warnings, yeah, trigger
content
warnings, yeah.
warnings, trigger warnings,
Um,
which
so
I don't have a problem with, Martin. I think that's
uh,
okay. So,
depending on the content, and
well,
I mean, it depends on,
I,
yeah. There's this
but
thing.
I've
No,
got
what
to
I
be
mean
honest.
is, sorry, what I mean is,
If
it's
I get stuff and it doesn't have a warning for like foul
yeah, you don't want
language
to
and
watch it.
sex, I'm not interested.
I want more swearing, please. But yeah,
Yeah, more mild.
yeah. That I mean,
Get out
that's
of
kind of
town.
it. If you want to keep away from certain material.
Oh, do you remember the red triangle that Channel 4 used to
Oh
put up
yes, what was that?
on
Yeah, that
their
was yeah.
late night films?
Yes,
So
gosh,
when they show sort of like European films with a bit of,
with subtitles. The subtitles put me off anyway, so
well, I know.
I wouldn't bother watching
You'd
it.
be, yeah, no, of
Can't.
course.
I don't
You
mind it
could
at the
watch it with
opera,
us.
darling, but
Yeah, no.
that's different.
Um, but also, Rachel D'Souza getting making the point, which others I'm sure have made, about the fact that VPNs are a real issue.
Right, and again, so
What's a
these,
VPN, Martin?
if you want to watch Premier League football illegally,
Yeah.
you can just pretend you're in a different country, and you put these little toggles or go online and
What's it stand for?
virtual
VPN.
personal network and
Virtual
personal network.
personal
I think.
network.
Actually, I don't actually know. I'm just accepting that's what it is because that seems
It's a lot. It's a
possible.
mouthful. I
So
mean, if
that's
only there was an
VPN.
acronym.
Sorry, I blew it. Um, very
We
good.
planned that. Martin buffed it up. Okay. Yeah, I know. You wouldn't think there was any rehearsal went into any of this, would you, Martin?
But yeah, so people can. So I think NordVPN is the one that
Yeah.
most people sort of
I, I
have heard
always
of.
see that advertised on The Rest is Politics. They're
Oh,
always
right,
touting
okay.
that.
So yeah, so people will
If
say,
Rory Stewart says it's good.
it must be, yeah. But
Yeah.
there are other VPNs which are slightly more dubious and you can get for free.
Oh, really?
And so I'd be careful with them perhaps because of course they you don't know if they're farming your data or not and exactly what's going on there. But yeah, if you're under 18 and you want to go to NordVPN, you will have to pay. That's the thing.
Is
So
that
it's the
part
free
of Nord
ones.
Anglia? Are they like similar?
A Ford Anglia.
Nord Anglia.
Oh, Nord Anglia. I remember a Ford Anglia.
Ford Anglia, yeah. It was
That's a great car.
an old person's car. Yeah.
The over 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Used to drive. They apparently made you more conscientious, though.
Did they?
Yeah.
And less agreeable.
No, more agreeable as well. We're far more agreeable.
Of course. Yeah. Far more.
Us,
Yeah.
us baby boomers.
Hence the results. It's all down to
exactly. It was the
Ford
Ford Anglia. It was all down to the Ford Anglia and the.
Do you remember the Ford Prefect?
No, it was. Well, hang on. Ford Prefect is in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. Named after the Ford Prefect.
I know. That was a joke.
Right. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. We didn't plan that one, so I didn't get it. There we are. We've strayed. Sorry,
we have strayed. So come back. So
what D'Souza's saying is that VPN sites should do ID checks.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, those that charge are probably not going to be that attractive to under 18s anyway. But
why are they free? Why are they? You think they're free for cynical reasons?
Well, no, some might be. Others might be using advertising or other forms of ways of funding themselves. I don't know that much about them. I thought they were all chargeable. Apparently not. So this is part of my education as well.
Okay.
But if you want to hide, where you're from or and for safety reasons, if you're traveling, it makes absolute sense that you're not sharing your data with all the sundry around you. It's a good protection. But yes, I think age verification makes sense on those things as well. Why not? And
surely on social media sites.
Yeah, it's I mean, was it you were ticking things? Yes, I am over 18. That was it, wasn't it? So that was the protection.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going on? Yes, I'm over 18, but I'm not.
Well, the guilt, the horror.
Yeah. But it is extraordinary what we've let happen over the last few years, and in terms of what's accessible online, and like I say, the pornography, the suicidal content, the extraordinary content that you can actually have on social media sites as well, just suddenly in front of your face, that you would never, ever, ever have anywhere near that sort of content in the past at all.
Yeah.
Anywhere. Is extraordinary.
No,
no wonder there are huge changes going on in the way that children are feeling about the world. I mean, I would be extraordinarily anxious if I was brought up with a content that around, that you can see. And
also the argument that's often made about the way you're meant to look and the way you're meant to be.
Yeah, and it's more visual and it's more time. I mean, people used to say, "Oh, the models on the front of Vogue, etc."
Yeah.
But this is happening all the time, and you just go if you go onto what's that site called? I mean, the one that all the kids use with you. I forgot what it's called.
TikTok.
TikTok. I was trying to think. LinkedIn?
Oh,
No, that's not it.
it is. Yeah, all the kids are on LinkedIn, aren't they? Yeah.
TikTok, Your Honour. TikTok. Yes, that site, and you just sort of scroll through, and I mean,
I've got to be honest, I've never been on TikTok, but
have a look. Have a look.
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
addictive. It is very addictive.
right.
And
By
I,
design, yeah.
yeah, and exactly, all this is by design. I mean, there's
So,
nothing here that's accidental.
so what do we think about the various people who are saying, that this is overreach, it's creep into censorship, it's a moral panic? What do we think about that?
I think it is a moral panic, but with good reason.
Right. Okay. The data that we've been talking about justifies the panic that we're experiencing.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
we have in our minds, something about the way that you should bring up children. We hang on desperately to um, the age limits on films
Mm.
as some sort of anachronism. You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
No, it really is, isn't it?
it's
Yeah.
rather bizarre, and then we've just opened this world,
Can of
some of
worms.
which is
Yeah.
extraordinarily positive and extraordinarily good. And you'd
For
want
sure.
to extenuate, say that's what you want more of, and you want less of this, and to just let it happen without, I mean, in the
Yeah.
name of free speech, in the name of freedom. I mean, it's a the First Amendment very much sort of guides what happens in America, but because America is in charge of this stuff, it's sort of polluting, and I'll use that word
Mm.
morally,
Advisedly.
polluting the world.
I
Um,
think there's a sort of corollary to make with my own recent experience with we started off by saying that my confession that I was taking the weight loss drug Manjaro because lots of some people might think, oh, you just need more self-discipline and more self-control around food, and it's great for those people that have that, and I've always struggled with that, and taking this has meant I've not, it's to use a phrase that I've heard quite a lot, it's turned off the food noise. It means I just don't think about that in the same way anymore. That asking people to have willpower and self-discipline around social media use, around internet use, around technologies which have been explicitly designed to harvest attention
yeah,
is just laughably unreasonable. And that if we don't provide some safety net, some bit of avuncular paternalistic
mm,
control around this sort of thing, then we really are selling people down the river. We're just abandoning them to the tender mercies of big tech.
yeah, and I think it's also in the adult world in terms of the
For
way
sure.
it's changing our culture and politics.
Yeah,
To
yeah, yeah.
an extent that people are looking for the next bad thing to say about something or other, and it's twisting certainly the debates, especially if you are particularly someone online, of which a lot of journalists are. And, so they are feeding and being fed
Yeah.
the world via these social media platforms rather than going out and
Yeah, yeah, no,
finding
that's a really
opinions
good
in
point.
different ways, so
And
it is,
investigating.
yeah. So certain numbers of those who comment on lives are online and being affected by what comes out is saying this is the important things, this is what people think, but it's only those online, the extroverted online presence. They're not necessarily
Mm,
extrovert in real life,
yeah,
but the
sure.
extrovert online presence, what we used to call the green ink brigade, now
Right.
now sort of have, and I'm obviously part of this, so I don't know,
I know
it's
we're part of the problem, Martin. That's a
but yeah, so I
humbling
would say,
thought, isn't
yeah, it's a moral panic, but
it?
then
Mm,
you've got liberty against authoritarianism, and I tend to fall in line in that battle. I'm more of the free speech advocate than I would
Yeah.
be for living in Putin's Russia, that sort of thing. But
Well, for sure, but if we again sort of touch on our free will debate, if all of this is around you and all of it's being fed to you, how much choice do you have, especially as a young person who hasn't yet developed, brain hasn't yet fully formed its ability to self-regulate?
mm,
How much choice, freedom do you actually have
mm.
to make good, wise,
And how much
reflective choices?
quiet time, self-reflective
Boredom,
time, boredom, all those things. And
yeah,
I mean, not boredom by sitting in lesson and getting
no,
bored. I
no,
mean,
no, but
actually
just having. So it's Sunday tea time when there was nothing to do,
nothing to
and there
do.
was songs
Yeah,
of praise on the telly or nothing else, and you
yeah.
had to do
Well,
something.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I remember when there was literally nothing on telly because it was the
yeah,
afternoon. You know,
yeah.
afternoon
And
was nothing on
the
telly.
test card.
The test card. You see, you
Yeah,
don't have to watch the test card.
no, you
You could
could.
actually. Why don't you turn off your television, go and do something more
Yeah, what was it?
important
Why don't
instead?
you? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
The
that's
kids.
yeah, kids
Yeah,
program.
yeah.
Ironic,
Anyway,
ironic.
it is
Anyway, yeah,
ironic.
we're getting into things. So, what do we think? Can we sum it up, David?
Okay, so can we sum it up? In a world that seems to be increasingly designed for distraction and loopholes, is there a mechanism? Is there a way out? Is there a way that we can collectively cultivate resilience and commitment and freedom in young people? I don't think we know, but should we try? Yeah, I think we probably should.
And on that note,
On that, yeah, on that slightly confused and hesitant note, yeah, thanks very much for wasting yet more of your time with Martin and me, and we'll see you, inshallah,
at
next
some
week.
time. Oh, next week we'll do that.
Well, do we do it next
Hopefully.
week?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I'd like to.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. And stay safe out there.
Take care. Bye bye.